Sometimes, miracles don't arrive with fanfare or thunderous applause. They appear quietly, a small, soaked creature trembling in a forgotten corner of the yard, precisely when you've begun to believe nothing can be salvaged. Dublin, Ohio. June 2025. A gentle summer rain fell softly, like a sigh easing the long, weary days of a quiet town. Raindrops traced paths down aged roof tiles, seeped past dusty window panes, and gathered into shimmering pools on the deserted streets. Outside. For sale. Signs swayed in the breeze, whispering of faded dreams carried on the wind. Inside a small house at the end of Evergreen Street, Sarah sat motionless at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee, long gone cold. A dim overhead light cast soft shadows across her face, a canvas etched with the deepening lines of worry, etched by the passing years. The rhythmic drumming of the rain against the windows mingled with the slow, steady tick of the wall clock. Each tick, a heavy pulse echoing in her chest. On the table lay an envelope from the bank, its edges softened and blurred by moisture. Bold black letters declared, "Final notice. Payment due in 30 days, or property will be seized." Sarah, 38 years old, once a dedicated nurse at the local hospital. Long nights, caring for patients, the warmth of her hand offering comfort amidst pain, were familiar to her. But the pandemic, and the subsequent layoffs, had swept everything away. Her job, her health insurance, and the fragile hope that she could keep her family whole. Her fingers traced her left wrist, the ghost of a nurse's watch, a gift from her husband for her first job, lingering there. Now, only emptiness remained, as if the world itself had paused. Behind the closed door of her bedroom, Mia, her 16-year-old daughter, had retreated into her own silent world. The piano, once a source of music that filled the house, now stood silent. The vibrant paintings that once adorned the walls had disappeared. When their insurance was cut, Mia's therapy sessions ended. Since then, she had withdrawn, like a flower quietly wilting in the shadowed corner of a home that once echoed with laughter. Sarah, always the steadfast one, felt her heart fracturing piece by piece, but she shielded Mia from her own despair. That afternoon, the rain intensified, draping the town in a cold, gray shroud. Sarah pulled on a worn hoodie, drew the hood over her tangled hair, and stepped out into the backyard, a sanctuary where she often sought a moment of peace. Once vibrant with daisies and Mia's beloved tomato plants, the garden was now a tangle of weeds. The earthy scent of damp soil and decaying leaves stirred memories. Sun-drenched afternoons, filled with the joyful sounds of mother and daughter. She knelt beside a drooping daisy bush, near the fence, her hand brushing against the wet leaves. Then she froze. A faint sound reached her ears, barely audible above the rain. A whimper. A soft exhalation. She leaned closer, her eyes narrowing, in concentration. Tangled in the undergrowth, a small fox curled into a ball and trembling uncontrollably. Its deep red fur was saturated, and its wide eyes glistened with fear and unmistakable agony. A strand of barbed wire was tightly wound around its hind leg, the cut so deep that blood had mingled with the rainwater, staining the earth in dark, rust-colored streaks. Instinct screamed, "Wild animal. Dangerous. Keep your distance." But then, their eyes met, and it wasn't just fear, reflected in those eyes. It was a silent, desperate plea for help. The same look Mia had, that day she collapsed onto the sofa, clutching a pillow, wordless, her own world, silently falling apart. Sarah swallowed hard, a knot forming in her chest. She lowered her hood, letting the rain soak her hair. Her voice was barely a whisper. "It's all right. I won't hurt you," She slipped off her hoodie and gently draped it over the small creature. Her hands, once steady and skilled at tending human wounds, moved slowly now, carefully unwinding the cruel wire. Gentle, patient, as if any sudden movement might shatter the fragile hold on life within that small body. The fox let out a weak cry, then went limp in her arms. Her heart pounded in her chest. Worry, fear, and something else stirred within her. A flicker of something she hadn't felt in a long time. Just help it. Then let it go, she murmured to herself, trying to resist the connection already forming. But as she cradled the tiny, soaked body against her chest, a sudden warmth bloomed, like a small ember in the cold rain. The fox, though drenched and exhausted, was alive. And in that moment, Sarah remembered. Even when everything crumbles, something is still worth holding on to. She stepped back into the house. Blood from the fox's wound had seeped through her shirt, dripping silently onto the floor. The kitchen remained cold. The lights still flickered intermittently. But as she gently placed the fox on an old towel, a subtle shift occurred in the atmosphere. A touch warmer. A little softer. Mia remained silent in her room. But somewhere in the stillness, a faint pulse seemed to awaken. Sarah sat beside the fox, gently stroking its matted fur. Her voice trembled with emotion. "You didn't come here to be saved. You came to remind me. There's still something worth fighting for." The heater clicked on. A soft hum filled the room as warmth gradually spread through the space. Rain continued to fall outside. But inside, a small light had begun to glow. Some days, when it feels like everything is falling apart, even the smallest creature can remind you. You are not alone. Each morning, the soft patter of Foxy's paws echoed gently on the wooden floor, a quiet heartbeat awakening a house once steeped in silence. Sarah began to rise earlier, no longer seeking refuge in sleep to escape the weight of her worries. By the stove, she'd slowly stir a pot of chicken soup, her gaze drifting every so often to Foxy, now curled contentedly on the old rug, his vibrant red fur glowing like the first rays of winter sunlight filtering through the window. Mia sat at the kitchen table, a crayon clutched in her hand. For the first time in months, she was drawing again. Strokes of fiery orange-red, earthy browns, and shimmering silver. Her subject was Foxy, his eyes seeming to hold a quiet understanding of the sorrow tucked away in her heart, choosing to stay, offering solace through his silent presence. Outside, snow fell with a delicate grace, draping the town in a fragile white veil. But inside their home, a warmth began to spread, not just from the gentle crackle of the hearth, but from the unspoken understanding that passed between mother and daughter, and the little fox who had carried the wild warmth of the forest into their city dwelling. That evening Sarah found Mia sifting through an old memory box. Family photos tumbled out. A faded image of her late husband, his face alight with joy as he pushed Mia on a swing. Old wounds, quietly resurfacing. Sarah sat beside her daughter, offering a silent comfort. Mia gently took her mother's hand, her voice barely a whisper. "Foxy reminds me of Dad. Not because they look alike, but because, when he's near, I feel safe. Like when Dad used to hold me." Sarah remained silent, tears welling in her eyes, blurring the edges of dust-covered memories. The next morning, Sarah found herself at the town library, carefully turning the pages of legal documents concerning the keeping of wild animals. She knew the odds were slim, but she had to try. Even the faintest glimmer of hope was worth fighting for. A kind-faced woman with hair as white as the freshly fallen snow, who sold pastries in the library corner, happened to overhear Sarah's story. She offered a gentle smile, and spoke of a stray cat that had stayed faithfully by her grandson's side after the boy lost his father. "Animals don't judge," she said softly. "They simply offer love, precisely when we need it most." Sarah clutched the stack of papers a little tighter. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she didn't feel utterly alone. That night, their living room transformed into a whimsical fort. White blankets draped over chairs, creating a cozy snow tent. Foxy nestled in the center, his head resting gently on Mia's lap. She held her guitar, her fingers still hesitant as they plucked a few tentative notes. The sound wasn't perfect, but it resonated with a heartfelt warmth, like a quiet whisper from a soul slowly beginning to heal. Sarah watched her daughter, a simple, profound joy shimmering in her eyes, as if the long winter within her was finally beginning to thaw. "I want to sing for Foxy," Mia murmured, as if sharing a precious secret. Sarah nodded, a soft smile gracing her lips. Mia began to sing, a song born from her own heart. It wasn't elaborate, but it was raw and honest. So honest that Foxy gently tilted his ears back, as if listening with his very soul. The next morning, their mailbox overflowed with handwritten letters. A mother in Texas shared how her dog had guided her through countless lonely nights. A young man in Montana wrote of his cat, a constant companion after he lost his job. An 18-year-old girl confided, "Mia's video made me cry. I used to think no one understood. But Foxy, he makes me want to try again." Sarah placed a few of the letters on the table. Mia read them, and silent tears traced paths down her cheeks. "I never imagined a fox could make people feel seen." "It wasn't just Foxy," Sarah whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "It was you, because you gave him a home. And your love." 2 days later, a stark message arrived from animal control. Failure to comply will result in fines and immediate removal. Sarah sat before her laptop, her hands trembling slightly. Behind her, the soft melody of Mia's guitar drifted through the air. She was composing music for their next video. Sarah gazed at her daughter. She couldn't allow the fragile light her daughter had rediscovered to be extinguished. That night, she penned a letter, not to send, but simply to unburden her heart. "My love, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, but today, our daughter smiled. And I know it's because of a small, stubborn, red-furred fox named Foxy." The next morning, Sarah took Mia to the edge of the woods, for the first time in many months. The wind carried a sharp chill, but neither of them seemed to notice. "We're going to teach Foxy how to be free," Sarah said. Mia hesitated, her brow furrowing slightly. "You're going to let him go?" "Number. But if the day ever comes when he needs to, I want him to be ready." Foxy stood in the snow, a slight limp still noticeable in his gait. But when Mia took a few steps ahead, he waddled after her, like a devoted puppy learning to trust. From that day forward, they visited the edge of the woods every day. They created games, searching for hidden treats, scrambling up gentle slopes, digging through the soft snow. Foxy learned slowly, but his spirit never wavered. One afternoon, he vanished behind a thicket of bushes. Sarah's heart leaped with panic, calling his name again and again. Mia stood still, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Then, a flash of orange-red emerged. Foxy reappeared, a leafy branch held gently in his mouth, as if to proudly declare, "I did it." Sarah's laughter mingled with her tears as she pulled Mia into a tight embrace. This time, tears of pure joy. But their happiness was fleeting. A black truck pulled up in front of their house. A ranger stepped out. Sarah instinctively tightened her grip on Mia's hand, but the man's expression wasn't stern. He offered a warm smile. "We've received hundreds of emails, videos, and handwritten letters," he said. "Your story has touched hearts, far and wide." Sarah held her breath, a sense of anticipation building within her. "And we have a proposal." At the local community center, a new nameplate was proudly displayed. Foxy, Certified Animal Therapy Volunteer. Foxy officially became a cherished part of a pilot program, helping children and adults rediscover connection simply through his gentle presence and calming touch. Mia designed the program's logo, a vibrant red fox nestled in a field of wildflowers. Sarah volunteered to care for Foxy and to listen, truly listen, to the stories held within hearts that had once felt shattered. One quiet afternoon, a shy little girl, who rarely spoke above a whisper, tentatively reached out and stroked Foxy's soft fur. Her eyes widened with wonder. A small, hesitant smile bloomed on her face. Mia turned away, quietly wiping a tear that traced a path down her cheek. Foxy wasn't just a fox. He was a renewed heartbeat within people who had believed they had lost everything. And Sarah finally understood. She hadn't just saved a fox. She had saved herself. And her daughter. The Dublin sky was a canvas of dull gray. Patches of melting snow left the pavement dappled with puddles, still and reflective, as if time itself were holding its breath. Just one day remained. The unwavering deadline. Without a new permit, Foxy would be gone. A heavy silence blanketed the house. Mia sat by the window, the knitted scarf she'd made for Foxy clutched in her hands, her gaze fixed on the somber world outside. In the kitchen, Sarah quietly packed belongings into boxes, each item a poignant severing of a memory. Suddenly, a knock echoed through the quiet, firm, yet not unkind. Elena, the vet, stepped inside, a thick envelope and a color printout in her hands. "Sarah," she began, her voice carrying a tremor of disbelief. "I have news, and it's almost too unbelievable." She laid the paper on the table. "Foxy isn't a wild fox. His DNA matches a domesticated breed from a Siberian project. Foxes selectively bred to live alongside humans. Foxy could be a descendant." Mia's breath hitched. "So, he was meant to be with us?" Elena nodded, her expression earnest. "He wouldn't have survived on his own in the wild." Sarah stood frozen, comprehension dawning. All those mornings Foxy had curled up by the warm fireplace. All those nights he'd nestled safely in Mia's arms. They held a deeper significance now. Foxy hadn't simply been rescued. He belonged here, with them. Letting him go was unthinkable. That night, Elena proposed a heartfelt campaign. #Save Foxy. She immediately shared their story in a poignant video on TikTok and Instagram. Mia poured her emotions into a short clip. Fleeting moments of rediscovered joy. Her first genuine smile in months. The tentative strumming of her guitar in a room once muted. A comforting cuddle with Foxy within their blanket fort. Sarah added her voice, her tone filled with quiet conviction. "We didn't just rescue a fox. In his own way, he rescued our family." Within a mere 24 hours, the campaign ignited hearts everywhere. A mother in California wrote, "My dog helped my son find his voice again after 2 long years of silence." A young man in Oregon shared, "My cat is the unwavering reason I haven't given up on myself." But then, a fresh wave of despair crashed over them. In the mailbox lay another stark white envelope. This one a foreclosure notice from the bank. They had a mere 14 days to vacate their home. Not only were they facing the potential loss of Foxy, but also the very sanctuary where their healing had just begun to blossom. That night, the house remained shrouded in darkness. No one reached for a light switch. Mia sat silently by the cold fireplace, Foxy's head resting trustingly on her lap. Sarah stood in the shadows, her gaze fixed on the 2 small, vulnerable beings, her heart aching with a profound sense of helplessness. She couldn't bear to see history repeat itself. Not again. The next morning, a glimmer of hope emerged. Save Foxy had gone viral, touching countless lives. A GoFundMe page appeared, its title a simple plea. Save a fox. Save a family. Hundreds of people, moved by their story, donated generously. $5, $20. One anonymous soul contributed $500, leaving a heartfelt message. "I lost my brother to COVID. Foxy reminds me that kindness still exists in the world." A compassionate young lawyer from Columbus reached out. "I once felt like there was nothing left worth fighting for. I want to help this family. Pro bono. Sarah held Mia close, silent tears of relief and gratitude streaming down her face. Not tears of sorrow, but because for the first time in what felt like an eternity, hope no longer seemed like a distant dream. The pivotal moment arrived on a biting cold afternoon. Sarah stood at a profound crossroads. Retreat into despair, or stand firm and fight for their fragile new beginning. She walked into Mia's room and found her lost in her artwork. On the paper, Foxy was depicted in a vibrant field of wildflowers, surrounded by hundreds of open hands reaching towards him, as if in welcome or gentle support. Sarah knelt beside her daughter, her heart overflowing with love, and took her small hand in hers. "No matter what happens, my love," she whispered, her voice filled with unwavering resolve. "I promise, I won't let you lose this joy you've found." Mia offered a small, yet incredibly resilient smile, a beacon of hope as steady as sunshine after a storm. In that quiet, heartfelt embrace between mother and daughter, a profound realization washed over Sarah. The true miracle hadn't solely come from a little fox. It wasn't just that Foxy had saved them. It was the boundless love they had poured into Foxy, and into each other, that had truly created this unexpected miracle. Love, whether offered to a small furry creature or a family teetering on the brink, is the unwavering light that has the power to pierce through any darkness. It was a serene spring morning. Snow melted silently from the aged tiles of the Dublin Community Hall's roof. Sunlight streamed through the windows at an angle, bathing the room in a warm golden light, like a gentle whisper. The wooden hall was filled to the brim. Strangers, neighbors, those who had quietly followed the unfolding hashtag Save Foxy story. Many held aloft hand-painted signs. Foxy is family. Love knows no paperwork. One fox. A miracle. In the front row, Sarah held Mia's hand, the little girl who had blossomed. Her hair was neatly styled, her smile radiant. In her hands, Mia cradled a watercolor painting. Foxy, standing proudly in a field, his eyes bright as if filled with laughter. Then, Mia's name was called. She walked slowly onto the stage, her pleated dress swaying softly with each step. Her voice, though small, resonated with newfound strength. Foxy didn't cure me. He simply stayed. Every single day. He asked for nothing. He never left my side. Until I finally dared to believe that happiness was still possible for me. A hush fell over the room. Then, like a wave gathering momentum, applause erupted, filling the hall with a joyous roar. A mother stood up from the back, her voice thick with emotion. My son hadn't left his room for 3 long years. A video about Foxy brought the first smile back to his face. The young lawyer turned to Sarah, tears glistening in his eyes. We did it. We won. Foxy was granted the right to stay, no longer labeled an invasive species, but embraced as a cherished member of their community. The bank, recognizing the outpouring of support, withdrew its foreclosure order, paving the way for a compassionate resolution. Sarah no longer had to live under the weight of fear. 1 year later, summer. A soft breeze rustled through the backyard garden, where fragrant lavender and pure white daisies bloomed in abundance. Nestled in one corner stood a charming little wooden cottage, adorned with a hand-painted sign that read, "The Foxy Haven, where love finds its way home." Sarah now led art sessions and storytelling gatherings. Children from all over the neighborhood congregated, their fingers stained with paint, their laughter echoing in the warm sunlight. Gentle therapy dogs lay curled peacefully beside the elderly. The soothing strumming of an acoustic guitar drifted from a speaker hung amongst the branches of a tree. Foxy, his coat a vibrant, fiery red, ambled contentedly among the children. At times, he would lie quietly beside a shy boy who was new to the neighborhood, his hoodie pulled low over his face. Foxy would gently nudge the boy's hand with his nose, a patient, unhurried gesture, and a small smile would finally break through the boy's reserve. Other times, Foxy would tiptoe up to an elderly woman sitting silently by the fence. Then, with a sudden playful movement, he'd flop onto his back, all four paws reaching for the sky. A hearty laugh would escape her lips, the first genuine sound of joy in the 3 years since she had lost her husband. Mia was in the process of creating a large, vibrant mural. It depicted a sprawling field of wildflowers, where people and animals sat together in peaceful harmony. No words needed. Just the gentle embrace of light and tranquility. One day, someone asked Sarah, their voice filled with genuine curiosity, "How did you manage to get through everything?" She paused for a moment, a thoughtful expression on her face. Then, she turned her gaze towards Foxy, who lay peacefully under the shade of a leafy tree, his breathing soft and even, his ears twitching gently at the whisper of the breeze. A soft smile touched her lips, not a triumphant grin, but a smile of deep, quiet relief and understanding. I didn't navigate it alone. It was love. The unconditional love from a little fox. The unwavering love from my daughter. The unexpected kindness from people I had never even met. It found its way through the cracks in our lives and blossomed into a beautiful, enduring light. The sun began its slow descent, casting a warm, golden glow over the Foxy haven. Sarah sat on the wooden steps of the cottage, a comforting mug of coffee warming her hands. Mia rested her head gently on her mother's shoulder, her well-loved sketchbook resting in her lap. Its cover softened with use, yet still beautiful. Foxy lay curled contentedly at their feet, his ears twitching softly as the evening wind whispered through the nearby trees. The sounds of gentle laughter echoed softly from the garden, mingling with the quiet strains of music that drifted through the air like a cherished memory. Then, heartfelt words appeared on the screen. Sometimes, all we truly need is a creature who offers unwavering acceptance, a gentle, understanding gaze, a soft, reassuring touch. To remember, deep within, you are still, and always will be, worthy of love.